जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा जय राधा माधव जय पंचतत्व जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय राधा माधव जय 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 प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्रील प्रभुपाद की गौर प्रेमानंदे। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, entitled Scheduled Incarnations, verse number 22. This verse is in the meter of Govindam Adipurusham, so we'll read in that meter. kṣatraṁ kṣayāya vidhinopabhṛtaṁ mahātmā. brahma-dhrug ujjhita-pathaṁ naraka-ārti-lipsu. uddhanti asāv avanikaṇṭakam ugra-vīryas. uddhanty asau avanikaṇṭakam ugra-vīryas. triḥ-sapta-kṛtva urudhāra-paraśvadhena. triḥ-sapta-kṛtva urudhāra-paraśvadhena. kṣatraṁ kṣayāya vidhinopabhṛtaṁ mahātmā. brahma-dhrug ujjhita-patham naraka-ārti-lipsu. uddhanty asāv avanikaṇṭakam ugra-vīryas. triḥ-sapta-kṛtva urudhāra-paraśvadhena. kṣatraṁ kṣayāya vidhinopabhṛtaṁ mahātmā. brahma-dhrug ujjhita-patham naraka-ārti-lipsu. uddhanty asāv avanikaṇṭakam ugra-vīryas. triḥ-sapta-kṛtva urudhāra-paraśvadhena. Matajis. Okay, word to word meaning. Kṣatraṁ, the royal order. Kṣayāya, for the sake of diminishing. Vidhinā, by destination. Upabhṛtam, increased in proportion. Mahātmā, the Lord in the form of the great sage Paraśurāma. Brahma-dhruk, the ultimate truth in Brahman. Ujjhita-patham, those who have given up the path of absolute truth. Naraka-ārti-lipsu, desirous to suffer pain in hell. Uddhanti, exacts. Asau, all those avanikaṇṭakam, thorns of the world, ugra-vīryas, awfully powerful, triḥ-sapta, thrice 7 times, kṛtva, performed, urudhāra, very sharp, Paraśvadhena, by the great chopper. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayacharya in the Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki translation. When the ruling administrators, who are known as the Kshatriyas, turned astray from the path of the absolute truth, being desirous to suffer in hell, the Lord, in His incarnation as the sage Paraśurāma, uprooted those unwanted kings who appeared as the thorns of the earth. Thus, He 7 times uprooted the Kshatriyas with His keenly sharp chopper. Purport. The Kshatriyas, or the ruling administrators of any part of the universe, either in this planet or on other planets, are factually the representatives of the Almighty Personality of Godhead, and they are meant to lead the subjects towards the path of God realization. Every state and its administrators, regardless of the nature of the administration, monarchy or democracy, oligarchy or dictatorship or autocracy, have the prime responsibility to lead the citizens towards God realization. This is essential for all human beings, and it is the duty of the Father, spiritual master, and ultimately the state to take up the responsibility of leading the citizens towards this end. The whole creation of material existence is made for this purpose, just to give a chance to the fallen soul who rebelled against the will of the Supreme Father and thus become conditioned by material nature. The force of material nature gradually leads one to a hellish condition of perpetual pains and miseries. Those going against the prescribed rules and regulations of conditioned life are called brahma-dhruk, or persons going against the path of absolute truth, and they are liable to be punished. Lord Paraśurāma, the incarnation of personality of Godhead, appeared in such a state of worldly affairs and killed all the miscreant kings 21 times. Many Kshatriya kings fled from India to other parts of the world at that time, and according to authority of Mahabharata, the king of Egypt originally migrated from India because of Paraśurāma's program of chastisement. The kings or administrators are similarly chastised in all circumstances whenever they become godless and plan a godless civilization. This is the order of the Almighty. Om Tat Sat. Om Ajnānatimirandasya Jnānāñjana-śalākaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim mitkrupātamaham mande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Vishwaram. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swamiti Namini Namacharya Padanitaya Kripudayane Gaurakatadamdaya Nagarakrantrane Katanjana Sprite Rismin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Visprate Viparitam Syat Shri Chaitanyam Namamitam. Hare Krishna. Before starting this discussion, I'd like to state that whatever I'm going to say is just for my own purification. It has to be taken in that spirit. So, this purport is very instructive by Srila Prabhupada, where he is telling about the role and characteristics of Kshatriyas. And before going to the purport, I think it is useful for us to little understand some Paraśurāma Katha. Now, Paraśurāma Katha is not generally discussed. We generally just sing one line in the Dashavatara kṣatram and then that's it. So, generally, what happens is that we have not discussed much of Paraśurāma, so little background. So, this starts from Urvashi and Pururava. So, Urvashi and Pururava had 6 sons. They're Shatayu, Satayu, Raya, Vijaya, Jaya. So, in Vijaya's line, 4 generations later, we get our own Janumuni. Janumuni, who has the fame of drinking up the entire Ganga. Ganga was following Bhagirath, and the Janumuni's ashram was devastated because of the flow, and Janumuni drank up the entire Ganga. We know that Janumuni. And in the line of Janumuni, we get a king called Gadhi. Interesting to note that in the line of Janumuni, we have a very chaste king, a Kshatriya king. I thought Janumuni is a Brahmana. So Gadhi had a daughter named Satyavati, very beautiful daughter. So a Muni named Richika wanted the hand of Satyavati as his wife. And so he approaches Gadhi and asks him, "Can I marry your daughter?" So Gadhi thought that Richika was not a very suitable match for his daughter. All the fathers think the same. So Gadhi also thought that. So Gadhi said, "No, if you have to marry my daughter, then you have to get 1,000 horses, pure white as cloud, but one of the ears should be black, completely black." He gave that condition. So he thought that that Richika will not be able to achieve this. So when Gadhi made this demand, he understood, and Richika understood what is there in Gadhi's mind. So what he did, he very tactfully went to Varuna, and he said, "Varuna, can you give me these kind of horses?" And Varuna gave 1,000 horses. So these 1,000 horses were placed in front of Gadhi, and Gadhi now happily got his daughter married to Richika. Now Satyavati and Richika are married. So Satyavati and her mother, that is Gadhi's wife, both of them ask Richika to prepare an oblation for them to have children. So Gadhi made an oblation, 2 oblations he made. One with the Brahmana mantra for his son and for the Satyavati to have, and one with a Kshatriya mantra for Satyavati's mother, because she's Gadhi's wife, so Kshatriyas should have Kshatriya children. But then so happened that after that he went to have a bath. In most of the Puranic stories, even Bhagavatam, when there is a twist which needs to be given, the person who is doing it goes for a bath. So he went for a bath, and then when he comes back, before that what happens, the mother, she thinks that whatever oblations which he has made for his wife, because he loves his wife so much, must be better. So she says that, "Can I have your oblation and you can have mine?" And Satyavati says, "It's okay, you have any which ways." And then they have each other's oblation. So when Richika comes back, in his meditation he understands. Again, this also is very common. Whenever the Rishi Muni comes back, he understands exactly what has happened. And so he says, "Now you have done a very great mistake, because now you're going to have a son who's going to have Kshatriya qualities, who will be able to powerfully punish others. And your brother, who's going to be born out of your mother now, will have very scholarly Brahmanical qualities." Then she says, no. Then she pacifies, Satyavati pacifies Richika with very nice words and says, no, let that not happen. I want to have a Brahmana son. Then he says, "We can't stop it, but in that case, your grandson will have Kshatriya qualities." So Satyavati gives birth to Jamadagni. So Jamadagni gets married to Renuka. And Renuka gives birth to many sons, starting with Vashuman and everybody, but the last son is Paraśurāma. Paraśurāma ki. So Paraśurāma is born of the semen of Jamadagni and Renuka as the mother. Now there is a very famous and powerful king called Kartyavirarjuna, who is the king of Mahishmati. The Mahishmati is the capital of that land. He actually is a devotee of Dattatreya, and he prays to Dattatreya and gets a lot of power. That is undiminishable beauty, undiminishable strength. He gets 1,000 hands. 1,000 hands. He could not know what to do with the 1,000 hands. Like most of the people who get power, They don't know what to do with the power. So, like how they say, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts? Absolutely. So, this Kartyavirarjuna had 1,000 hands. He did not know what to do. So, he was sporting away with all some ladies on the banks of the river. And just to show his power, he stopped the water. I stopped the water. Using 1,000 hands. What to do with 1,000 hands? He stopped the water. So, on the other bank of this Yamuna, this Ravana was actually sitting. Why? Because he was doing some Digvijay Yatra. And he was banking, he had put a tent on the other bank. So it so happened that the water rushed into Ravana's camp. And Ravana, being a hero and very powerful and egoistic himself, he said, what is this Kartyavirarjuna doing like this? So he came to Kartyavirarjuna and started fighting. Kartyavirarjuna was so powerful that he captured Ravana like a monkey, Bhagavatam says. And he put him in the cage. And then carelessly released him later. That, go. Like that. So such powerful Kartyavirarjuna, when he was going in the forest, he saw Jamadagni's ashram. And he went inside. In that purport, Prabhupada writes, there was no business for him to go into Jamadagni's ashram, but because he was so puffed up with power, he went inside. And then a lot of soldiers were also there. He had gone there on hunting. So when he went there, Jamadagni, like a very good rishi, or Brahmana, received him nicely. He had a Surabhi cow named Kamadenu. He can give anything. So with that power of that cow, he took care of the guests very nicely. And naturally, as a kshatriya, as a powerful person who does not know what to do with his powers and egoistic, he wanted that cow for himself. He said, what is this rishi going to do? Rishi is going to just going to use it for his Agnihotra. So I don't want him to use it for that. I want to use it for my own sense gratification. Let me have the cow. And she has to come to Maheshmati with me. So when Jamadagni denied, forcefully they took the cow and the calf. Paraśurāma had gone out to the other city somewhere to help others. When he came back, he realized this, and then he went with he was so angry. Bhagavatam says that he was as angry as a trampled snake. So he went out with his sharpened axe, his bow, his quiver of arrows, and his shield, and he started killing everybody which Kartyavirarjuna sent. Kartyavirarjuna was so afraid of Paraśurāma. Look at his power. But even then, when he sees somebody pure as Paraśurāma, he was afraid. This is what happens. There's a lot of learning in the purports which Prabhupada gives. If you read these purports of Canto 9, chapter 15, 16, that itself can become a class. So, very nice learnings Prabhupada gives that, when a person who is as pure as Paraśurāma goes in front of a person who is not as pure, then he is very scared. So, he sends 17 Akshoni Sainya. Akshoni Sainya is a very big number. One Akshoni itself is like 1,09,000 something soldiers and 25,000 something elephants, 25,000 something chariots and 65,000 something horses. This kind, and 17 times of that he sent. And what did Paraśurāma do? He started killing them at the speed of the mind. And when he was somewhat tired, Prabhupada says, as he was somewhat tired, he started killing them at the speed of wind. That itself is big for us. So first he started killing at the speed of mind, and then at the speed of wind. Then he killed each and everybody. Each and everybody. And then he also killed Kartyavirarjuna. It said that he cut his head like how they cut the top of the hill. He flattened it. Kartyavirarjuna's sons, 1,000 of them were watching this, and they got scared and they ran away. After that, he came back, and there is a small episode of Renuka getting distracted with looking at a Gandharva. She gets distracted. She gets attracted to him. In the mind, she gets distracted. For that, Jamadagni says, "Why don't you kill him? Kill her." He tells all the other sons, "Kill your mother." All the other sons say, "No, I can't kill my mother." Then Paraśurāma comes and says, "Kill your brothers first, and then your mother." He promptly kills them because he knows what is the capability of Jamadagni. Jamadagni is a very powerful sage and a rishi and a brahmana, and he knows that he is able to revive them back. So he promptly kills them. And when Jamadagni becomes very, very happy, then he asks, "What do you want?" He's asked a very interesting boon. He says, "I want all of them to be revived without the memory of them getting killed by me." It's not that they should get revived and then they should also remember, hey, tune mere ko mara na, tune mere ko mara. That should not happen. So they get revived without getting to know that he killed him. So after that, this is the story of Paraśurāma. So in this, there is a lot of learning for all of us. If we see, why did Kartyavirarjuna fall down? He was a devotee of Dattatreya, but he had demoniac tendencies. He had tendencies which is basically towards sense gratification. He wanted to use his power and his position for sense gratification. So wherever we see, if you see the Artha Shastra, we always believe that Brahmanas are supposed to be self-controlled, Shama, Damas, Tapas, Shaucham, and all those things, where a Kshatriya can do whatever. Why? Because in the Mahabharata, we have heard that Kshatriyas can actually marry multiple times, they can gamble. All these are very attractive. Because Prabhupada has asked us to leave these things, this becomes more attractive. So we feel that Kshatriya can do all these things and then they're capable of, not capable of sense control. But no, even Kshatriya are supposed to be self-controlled. That is when they will be successful. If you see history, a person like Janmejaya also, who later on when we realized that his father was killed by a snake, he used the Brahmana's powers to kill all the snakes. This is an exhibition of power without sense control. Right? He called all the snakes. He wanted to kill Takshaka, and Takshaka was taking shelter of Indra. So what did he do? He did the Ahuti. He asked the Brahmanas, can you call Takshaka down? The Brahmanas meditated and said, of course we can call them. We have the mantras for that. Don't worry. Then you call him down. He says, no, he's taken shelter of Indra. Can you call the Ahuti, including Indra? The Brahmanas said, okay, yes, we have practiced this, we can call. Then call. That much of no sense control. Okay, it is an exhibition of doing wrong things, even who is powerful. So Janmejaya is an example of what a king should not do. Duryodhana is an example of what a king should not do. Dushasana or even Shishupala is an example of what a king should not do. So, but we have also examples of people, of kings, of whom we should follow. Yudhishthira, Ambrish Maharaj. These are all, why are they famous? They are not famous because they achieved some Kshatriya prowess. They are famous because of their sense control. Sense control is the most important aspect of being a Kshatriya. Because unless and until a leader is inspirational, he cannot be a leader. It is applicable for all of us. It is applicable for us as a leader of the house. It is applicable for us as a leader of a community. It is applicable for us as a leader of a department or a division which you are taking care of. It is applicable for us in ISKCON. It is applicable for us everywhere. Forget about the outside world. What should this party leader do? What should that party leader do? This is none of our business. We should focus on our lives. Our lives is devotional life. And in devotion, it starts with sense control. Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami starts with the first thing. What should is through? Control all your senses. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jihva vegam, mudra upastha vegam. All these things if you have, then you can have multiple disciples. Rupa Goswami says this. So, even if you see Chanakya's Artha Shastra, surprisingly in chapter 6 of Artha Shastra, we always believe that Artha Shastra is only for how to create spies, how to manage the kingdom, how to collect taxes, how to manage a set of farmers, how to manage a set of jewelers. All these things are there. But even before everything, even Chanakya speaks about the kings and the leaders having to have sense control. He says one should try and get over kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. So it is not that Kshatriyas are exempt of not being sense controlled. Definitely one should be sense controlled. So this is the differentiating factor between a successful Kshatriya and an unsuccessful Kshatriya. Similarly, a successful Brahmana and an unsuccessful Brahmana is also the same difference. Krishna speaks about this in Bhagavad Gita many a times. Many a times he speaks about it. Indriyadau. Start with the senses, my friend. And when Arjuna asks about sthita prajna, it's all about how senses are controlled. Right? And this sense control is there as a thing to be done throughout the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Examples of this over and over again are given to us. Right? One second. So, when we see that our life is hovering around sense control, and sense control is what we are supposed to do, it is very, very important for us to identify milestones within us, whether we are progressing towards a better sense control or not. Right? So this is very, very important. Prabhupada says that Kshatriyas or leaders in ISKCON should be Sushila. In one of the purports to the Kunti Maharani's prayers, Prabhupada says that without having proper hearing and chanting, one cannot become a leader anywhere, and especially in ISKCON. So leaders should be inspirational leadership. Because, as Prabhupada says in this purport very clearly, the purpose of this life is to go back home, back to Godhead. And everything which we do should be it should be directed towards that particular goal. Like ISKCON has got seven purposes. Everything which ISKCON as an organization should do should move towards those 7 purposes. I don't know, somehow all of us should memorize the 7 purposes of ISKCON and keep it in our mind. So that if you're doing any activity, we can identify saying that how can this be connected to the purposes of ISKCON? And how I as a leader or I as a person serving can serve Prabhupada through my capabilities in this manner so that I am sense controlled and people are motivated to follow a life of sense control and devotion. This is how we are all supposed to look. A leader is supposed to inspire. A leader is not supposed to tell. This sense control is what differentiates the leaders. So this sthita prajna's purports, Ramanujacharya has written a very, very nice commentary on 2.55 to 58. Okay? And Vedanta Desikar is one of his very, very close disciples. He has written additional purports and comments on those purports written by Ramanujacharya. Very, very useful commentary. All of us should remember what I'm about to discuss now, because Vidwan Gaurang Prabhu told us about this in a class, and I'm going to paraphrase this. So this is the lineage of the knowledge. So Ramanujacharya has written it, Vedanta Desikar has commented it, Vidwan Gaurang Prabhu has taught us, and I'm going to tell this here, because I think it is very, very useful for us, if sense control is useful for all of us. So, when there is a sense object in front of us, now sense object can be anything, starting from a simple rasagulla to anything which distracts us from the path of devotion. It could be a game, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a WhatsApp message, it could be social media in general, it could be movies, it could be the sight of a person of the opposite gender or the same gender, whatever it could be. If this is distracting, then we have to identify that this is a sense object for us. Upon seeing a sense object, there are 4 things which happen. Okay? What happens? One is the mind identifies that it is a sense object. Right? First thing which happens. Second, there is happiness upon seeing a sense object. It is an internal, small change, but it happens. Okay? There is happiness when you see a sense object. Third, there is instinctive attraction towards a sense object to gratify that, to use it. And fourth, we actually go and gratify our senses. This is the process. So when a person who is a devotee or a practitioner, let us say, a practicing devotee, when he sees a sense object, so you put in your mind what is your sense object. When he or she sees a sense object, he identifies that it is a sense object. There is little happiness upon seeing that sense object. There is an impulsive urge to use it and sort of enjoy it, but he shifts his eyesight or vision away from the sense object. This is the first stage of trying to be self-controlled. If one doesn't shift the eye, he is not even starting to be a devotee. If you continue seeing it and continue enjoying it in your mind, because there is propensity for a person to enjoy with the mind and senses. This propensity is going to remain. So with that propensity, if you continue seeing that sense object, then the devotional life has not even started. At least with regard to that particular sense object. See, we have to understand that every sense object, we might be at a different level of control. For some people, they don't even know that Facebook exists. For some people, they can't stop checking Facebook every 3 minutes. For some people, Rasgulla is not at all attractive. For some people, Rasgulla, they can't stop having a second one. For some people, chocolate is like as bad as onion and garlic. For some people, it says, this is on the sidelines. No, it's okay. So we have to decide at what level of sense control we have regarding different sense objects. So as a practitioner, we have to keep assessing ourselves. This is self-assessment. We see what milestone we are in. So coming back to the definitions, when a devotee, a practicing devotee sees a sense object and he identifies that it is a sense object, there is a happiness upon seeing that sense object, there is an impulsive attraction to enjoy it, but he chooses to take his vision away from that sense object. This is the first stage of sense control called yatamana, to endeavor. This first stage of endeavor. If you're not doing that, that is not even endeavor. Second stage. In this stage, the mind is not in control. The senses are little in control, but mind is not in control. And the propensity to enjoy through the mind and the senses exists. Okay? Stage 2. A person, a practitioner sees a sense object. He identifies that it's a sense object. There is happiness upon seeing the sense object, but there is no impulsive attraction to enjoy. There is no impulsive attraction to enjoy. This is called vyatireka, where is differentiation. He's trying to say that I should do this, I should not do this. I should do this, I should not do this. He has got little mind control, but the mind is not completely under control. Senses are not completely under control. Little mind control. This is called vyatireka. Stage 3 is when the practitioner sees a sense object. He identifies that it is a sense object, but there is no happiness upon seeing it. Hence, there is no impulsive attraction, and hence he does not gratify. And this stage is called ekendriya. Ekendriya. This where there is almost one-pointed focus. But the propensity to enjoy with the mind and senses still exists. This is stage 3. Stage 4 is when a practitioner sees a sense object, does not even realize it's a sense object. This is called vashikara. Because it does not realize that it is a sense object, obviously there is no happiness, there is no impulsive attachment, and then there is no sense gratification. And even the propensity to enjoy through the mind and senses are gone away. These phases, as practicing devotees, we must use on ourselves. Not learn this and say, hey, look at him. He still has got attraction towards mind and senses. How can he be a leader? No. It is for us. We see whether we are qualified to lead our own family, whether we are qualified to advise somebody from our own mind, See, advising somebody using Prabhupada's purports, anyone can do. Even a person with a cigarette in hand can advise if he is speaking right out of the purports of Prabhupada. Because he is not saying anything from his own contaminated mind. Right? If we are trying to manifest something out of our own mind, thinking that our reading has actually, Paramatma is inspiring, we have to see whether our senses are in control or not. Or else you have to stick to whatever it is. Stick to Prabhupada. Stick to our acharyas. Stick to our sampradaya. Right? So, for principles, we have to stick to our sampradaya or acharya and see whether we are going towards the path of sense control or not. Only the path of sense control will lead us to stability in our devotion. Only when there is stability in our devotion will we have one-pointed focus of devotional service for our entire life. So, whether kshatriyas, whether brahmana, whether whatever activity which we are doing, if we are trying to influence somebody in one aspect or the other, we have to see that we are trying, at least endeavoring to grow on the path of sense control and devotion. Because this is what differentiates a kshatriya, good kshatriya from a bad kshatriya, a good brahmana from a bad brahmana, a good devotee from a bad devotee. We always see that if there is some principle somebody else is following nicely, there are two kinds of comments which comes. If somebody is following nicely and we are also following it, we'll say, that person is so strict with this, right? But if we are not following it, if it is a detail and we are not following it and that person is very nicely following it, we'll say, such a fanatic he is. It depends on whether we call him a fanatic or a person with strict rules and regulations, whether we are following it or not. For example, let us say somebody is eating chocolate. A detail. Prabhupada is clearly told, one should not. But many devotees eat. Or else why would so many shops sell? So, somebody is eating and somebody says, don't eat chocolate. I'm just giving you a very simple example. Very non-existing example. But if the other person thinks that you should not eat, and he knows it, he says, see, he's so strict with chocolate also. But if the other person is eating, he's such a fanatic person. Focus, Prabhu. Let's chant Hare Krishna. Leave the details. So, our sense control is our business. We should focus these techniques for ourselves. When it comes to others, we can be a little liberal if it is not deviating from any principle. So, being strict with the principle and okay with the details for the others and being strict with the principle and the details for ourselves is a good technique as a growing devotee. Whether we are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, whatever role we might be taking care, as devotees of ISKCON, we cannot forget sense control. So this is what Prabhupada is saying that leaders should do. This is what Paraśurāma has, in Paraśurāma's episode, teaches us in multiple stages. Even Jamadagni, for that matter, later on, just to continue the story again, after Paraśurāma leaves, the sons of Kartyavirarjuna, wanting revenge, come to Jamadagni's camp and they see him meditating. While he is meditating, they cut off his head. And Renuka is shouting, oh my God, alas, Rama, Rama, she calls Paraśurāma. That is when he comes back and starts killing all the Kshatriyas 21 times. So when Prabhupada says that in that purport, that Jamadagni, he punished Renuka, even though temporarily, he killed her through Paraśurāma for a seemingly smaller fault. Because of that, he had to go through this. So nobody is exempt of exhibiting sense control. Even Jamadagni, for that matter, should have shown restraint. That's saying that, okay, my wife, she came late for the yajna. He was doing yajna. Renuka went to the banks of Yamuna. She wanted to get water for the offering. But she saw that the Gandharva was was there with some apsaras and she got distracted. She got, oh, such an attractive Gandharva. And in the mind, only in the mind, she got distracted. And because of that, she got delayed. And that Jamadagni identified when she came delayed. And he said, kill her. So nobody is exempt of exhibiting sense control in this episode. Kartya Virajana, he died because he got killed very badly after so many Akshonis of Sainyas in front of his 1,000 sons. Like that by Paraśurāma because he could not exhibit sense control. Similarly, Ravana got humiliated in front of all his camp by Kartya Virajana because he did not exhibit sense control. And of course, his entire episode of Ravana with Mother Sita and he getting vanquished by Lord Rama, all this is because he could not control his senses. So sense control is a primary aspect for all human beings, because without sense control, we are, as like how the outside world people say, human beings are just, what do you say? Social animals. So if social animals is what we are, without sense control, we are just animals. So I think we can stop here. If there are any questions, comments, anything which you want to discuss, we have many senior devotees here who can also help us answer.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class. This again you have repeated those 4 steps, like last time also, or maybe last to last time you have said this. So my question is, Prabhu, like while observing myself, the mind identifies as sense object, that happiness is there, then that impulse is there, and then but as a practitioner, we know that this is not good. So we don't go for this thing. But then the mind again jumps in that place. Again we pull back, again jumps. I keep praying that, when will this go? When will this go? Why is the mind jumping there? So when will this go? Bro, like that is my question. When will the mind stop jumping over there and like come back at least?
See, Hare Krishna. We have to identify what is the nature of the mind, right? The mind's nature is to be like this, because among all the Indriyas, Krishna is mind. Okay, he's going to be like this. So if you are expecting the mind to be in your control, you are expecting something which is of a very high level of practitioner stage. His Holiness, I forget his name, Keshav Maharaj, what's his name? Madhav? Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj. In one of his talks, he was saying that we should not identify with the mind, we should identify what the mind is. Okay? If we say that, oh, I'm getting these thoughts, I want to do this. No. I am getting these thoughts. No. Wrong statement. My mind is throwing these thoughts. So what to do? Ignore. We have learnt it. But in between, we forget that we are not the mind. And whatever mind throws, we think, either we say, such a great thought I'm having, huh? I must be a very good practitioner. Or we say, what, this kind of thoughts I'm getting? Oh, I'm Patit Prabhu, fallen. That is good to have in terms of, in saying that I'm a Patit and everything, that feeling is good for devotion. Apparently, we are supposed to feel like that. But if you're saying that my mind is throwing this, when will this stop? It is not going to stop. You're expecting something which is not going to happen. So you're having a wrong milestone, the long yardstick to measure whether you're progressing or not. The mind is going to do its job. You do your job because you're not the mind. I think this is the understanding which I would like to go towards for your question. Anybody else has a comment on his thought?
Thank you very much for the nice class. Could you explain why Srila Prabhupada does not want us to eat chocolate?
There's a tangential example which I gave. I think chocolate has got caffeine in that. And the last time I read, chocolates have got about 2% caffeine. 6% caffeine. Decaf has got about 2% caffeine. and tea and coffee has got about 39% caffeine. But it is a wrong thing in that it's basically, Prabhupada says that it can get addictive. Caffeine is addictive and hence we are not supposed to have. This is the direction in which Prabhupada comments many places, maybe in his conversations, room conversations and talks. Because specifically the Vedas has got chocolate episodes. And episodes where Prabhupada actually called in a devotee who went out to get some money, get something, and in his pocket along with the change came few chocolates. So Prabhupada dragged him to the kitchen and then immediately he made shira with his own hands. And he gave him, said, eat, without even offering, that episode says. So he said, eat this. And that the devotee felt very nice after eating that shira. He said, eat this, not chocolate. See, that might be a detail. And you might have to ask Prabhupada disciples on what really Prabhupada meant with these things. So I would not know. You yourself might be a Prabhupada disciple, so you would know better. My understanding is this much.
Sometimes Prabhupada says things that seem completely contradictory. So how do we know which instruction to choose? For instance, like chocolate, that's a good example.
Yeah.
In 1972, Haribol Prabhu gave Prabhupada some chocolate in Switzerland, and Prabhupada said it was very nice.
Yeah.
But then in 1976, Jai Prabhu was trying to sell chocolate milkshakes in the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and they went in, and Prabhupada said chocolate's forbidden, not to use it. So there's that's just one example, but
yeah, there are many.
There's many things I could say where Prabhupada said one thing about something in one circumstance and something different in the other circumstance. Like one time there was a devotee, there was two sannyasis in Vrindavan. Prabhupada told one of them that he should always be moving, and he should be always traveling and preaching and never get involved in management. And then he told another sannyasi, he said, you're the temple president here in Mayapur, in Vrindavan, and you should never consider giving up management and traveling around.
Yeah.
So I could keep on giving examples, but the question is, like, how do you know what Prabhupada really wants when he says two different things on something?
My personal understanding of these contradicting instructions, seemingly contradicting instructions, is that there is a separate section in Veda base where I think one Maharaj or somebody writes about dealing with contradicting instructions of Prabhupada. There is a book or some write-up. I think Satswarup Maharaj has written on something. I don't remember who it is, but it's there in Veda base. When I was searching, it was there. So my understanding, for my own personal use, what I do is that I have never dealt with these kind of contradictions, but what we can do possibly, if you ask me a question, is if I do something and it doesn't work out for me, and there is some seemingly blockages on my way while I'm doing that, then probably that is not what Prabhupada wanted for me. I will take it like that, because we have to see signs of whether we are progressing towards a better devotion and better sense control and better devotional life, or are we digressing and falling down in our own assessment of ourselves. In that way, we can sort of quantify our growth in our own mind, possibly. This is one method, because obviously there are as many number of people who say that this is right, and as many number of people who say this is right, and that is how this is the rasa of Prabhupada's instructions, that I must say, nice rasa. That is how it will keep it very lively. And of course, we are not battling on principles, we are battling on details. Principally, we all know Krishna is supreme, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, chanting of the holy name is the yuga dharma, and we are supposed to go back home, back to Godhead. This much and all principally we know. Srimad Bhagavatam Shravan we have to do. All other things which seemingly detail-oriented instructions which have a contradiction, we can deal it in our own lives and then we can take instructions from our own guru or our whomever we submit to. With surrender, if we ask somebody and they instruct, we can take it as Prabhupada's instruction. This is what I do sometimes. Even if it is a person who is a person managing a queue, and he stops me from going somewhere, I take it as an instruction from Prabhupada, because Prabhupada has instructed the temple commander or whoever that is, and the person is appointed him as a security, and the security is asking me not to go. It's as good as Prabhupada asking me not to go. This I do use it for myself. So maybe that could be helpful. I mean, what do you think? I'd like to know that.
Oh, I don't do comments.
The thing, excuse me, we're not really fanatics, you know, so an occasional chocolate bar because you got nothing else to eat, or you're driving and you need a sugar rush and a caffeine rush so that you won't die. So but to turn it into like a big chocolate factory, the Hare Krishna chocolate factory, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Then it's like an addiction, you know, like.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.